with Freire Ideas. Yeah. And also I'm a member of Café com Paulo Freire Collective. So that I'm here, just a minute. I'm here to present my group and the work that we have been doing in Café com Paulo Freire here in Brazil as a national network.
Fernando is also a poet, so we have some poetry here.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. So we can go.
That's really relevant also.
So Chico, would you like to introduce yourself briefly, please? Chico?
Yes. Hello. Good afternoon. For me here is good morning. How are you? Very well. I'm Chico Huitaga. I'm a Brazilian. I live in São Paulo. I'm an old friend of Paulo Freire. He was in Brazil before the putsch of '64. I was working in the agrarian reform in Brazil. And I was established with Paulo some coordinating something to do with in this agrarian reform about for education of people. And now I'm still in the struggle, but already 70 years. I will wait to speak about it a little bit later.
I could say something else, that Chico is an architect, and even though he worked in agrarian reform, he received at the same time as Leonardo both the Right Livelihood Award for acknowledging his life commitment to social change. And not the least, and this is a contact we have with Semos that I will explain later, he designed the basic methodology of the World Social Forum. And the Uppsala Social Forum had one base here in this place. So thank you, Chico. Then we move to Alicia.
Hi, how do you do? Good morning, good afternoon for all of you. I am Alicia Cabezudo, Argentinian Italian, but Argentinian really, you know, and an old friend, quite old, of Asril Bakar. Don't remember when we met first time, really. My field is the pedagogy for building cultures of peace, citizenship, and human rights. So this is my field. I work in it on researching, training, and peace studies. And actually, I am, of course, my alma mater is the University of Rosario in Argentina, but I work in the network of peace universities in Colombia, and I live in Colombia since the Havana agreements in 2016, making a following up of them and trying to transfer them to pedagogical tools. So that is my work. So I am living in Colombia now in the last, would say, 4 years, working in university, of course, also in another universities in Latin America, in the Human Rights Network. But I am the conveyor of a project on peace education for post-conflict areas or urban areas where we have a conflict as in the rural areas.
Alicia,
and also, yeah.
Alicia, maybe that's like a good beginning, and then you can complement later on. And this is also up. It is also, we listen in each other,
Yes.
Yeah, it is also a common field we have with Alicia, peace education, culture of peace. That's how we met. So maybe we could introduce other people here. I don't know if we lost Lila Borges, she's not there, but we continue introducing ourselves here. Daniel?
Yes, I should move into the camera. So welcome again to CEMUS, Center for Environment and Development Studies at Uppsala University and the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. As you said, Israel, my name is Daniel Mosberg, and I work with outreach and education here at CEMUS. And I should say something, we've upped the technology thing now. So the people we see on the screen are the people with the camera on. So there's more people in the participation list that haven't turned on their camera. So there's a long list of people also part of the mix. And yeah, thank you. And I'll be behind the camera over here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. So my name is André. I'm from Brasília, Brazil, where I had my education, the first contact with Paulo Freire. There is even a high school called Paulo Freire, where I also used to study. And I was, I can say, like a teacher in high school. In the high school, I studied as a volunteer for a few years, where I used some critical pedagogy without knowing before, because we don't really discuss Paulo Freire in Brazil as much as we should, I guess. And then I came to Sweden 6 years ago to study here at CEMUS, finished my master's in sustainable development, and started on the way during the master's to work as a course coordinator, which I still do. And now studying sociology of education in the Department of Education here in Uppsala University, where we don't talk about Paulo Freire. And I've been the annoying person bringing Paulo Freire to the discussions when everything is about Bourdieu or other European schools, and I'm the one that, but what about Paulo Freire and other worldviews? So I became the annoying one in my department.
Good for you. Thank you, Andrea. I think we know each other. Azril Bakal. My background is as an agricultural engineer, and then anthropology, sociology, including sociology of education. And the link with CEMUS is historical. I've taught a few seminars, but in one of the courses organized by the students, the course was how to change the world. And we clearly didn't succeed yet because the world still needs to be changed. So it's a unique opportunity to be here together. It's the first time in history that we're together in this space, in this digital space, and we will continue the commerce. This is a short presentation now. Freire was very emphatical about the class, the group, being a personal meeting, not just an impersonal. So this is why we're investing some time, the little time we have, to introduce ourselves. So are you with us?
Sorry, no.
You are not with us. You're just sitting with us, but you are with us.
Yes, so hello, my name's Aidan. I am a second year student studying sustainable development. I've also just started working at CEMUS, about a month in so far, so I'm very new, very fresh to all of this. I heard of Paulo Freire from Andre, who I work with. And so I'm very much here as someone willing to learn and to listen to all the expertise, because I know very, very little.
That's a great beginning. You just came in?
Yes, I'm Hampus. I study archaeology and ancient history. And very interested in this topic. Yeah.
We need some archaeology of the future, right? Yes. So the background is we started on Sunday, the 19th of September, to celebrate, along with the whole world, Paulo Freire's birthday. We even play Las Mañanitas. We sang to him on that day, and we started, and Ayman was here, Daniel, and we had a small group, but very vital. So we reviewed some basic ideas about Freire, and one of the links with this discussion, this meeting today, is the context, how to read the context, how to interpret the context, and how to transform the context. So this will be a bridge. But if you want to look at the first program, it's on the web. And everything that we will be doing in the next weeks will be on the web. So on that, then we have somebody there.
Johan.
Johan, could you introduce yourself, please, shortly?
Yes, thank you for letting me participate. I was when I got the invitation, I was very happy because I want to know about Paulo Freire, because I haven't heard about it. And I started to read his book just an hour ago, and it captures me a lot. And it's very interesting. It's like when I read it with my own lens. Of course, it's like he wrote it from his own perspective, and it transcends. From coming from Brazil, it can be also in the setting here in Uppsala. It's like to be in the periphery or in a group. It's like it's very interesting, and I want to learn more about it.
What are you doing, Johan? What is your cup of tea?
Oh, my cup of tea. I'm into politics and economics. That is my background. I have a master in politics and a BA in economics. And I'm curious on learning more things. I like literature. I'm a big fan of poetry, yes, I enjoy.
It's a club of poets here. But then let's start with the day. Most welcome, warmly welcome to this special meeting, encounter of souls, of critical thinking, of diversity. I don't know who else is listening to this program right now, but Daniel said that there were several, but we don't see their faces. Franz, hello. Welcome. Do you want to shortly introduce yourself, and then we start with the program?
I'm Franz Lenglet. I've encountered Paulo Freire for the first time in his book, Education for the Oppressed. That was in 1972, I think. And since then, I've been following his works and trying to implement some of his ideas in the work I've been doing over the last 45 years in education. Right now, I'm retired. I was the former director of the Swedish International Center of Education for Sustainable Development at Uppsala University. Thanks.
Thank you, Franz. And Franz is the bridge with the next meeting that will be about transformative research and education. And that's the title of a book where we are both engaged. I'm the editor. We have about 12 co-writers, and I'm glad to see you with us today and next time as a panelist. But here we're in the screen, we're in this space. It's a hybrid kind of meeting. And so we focused this session on reading Latin America with the focus on Brazil from a Freirean perspective. That is, from a critical and transformative and hopeful perspective. Something very important with Freire was hope, the power of hope as the horizon. So we have our distinguished guests there, and we have our distinguished guests here as well. And so maybe we start with you, Chico. You seem to be sitting up in Sao Paulo. Do you want to start giving us two things to begin with? We'll take different rounds. You said that you met Freire. Could you say something about how did you meet with him? Was during the time he was Minister of Education, during the time of Django Goulart? How did you meet with him? And how did that meeting influence your thinking and your praxis? Do you want me to repeat in Portuguese, or is it clear?
excuse me, my English is very bad.
Good enough.
I can speak, but I have big difficulty to understand what you are saying.
Ok, eu posso traduzir. Em que condições encontrou você Paulo Freire? Se foi no período de Django Goulart, quando ele era ministro da Educação, nesse contexto, como influyó?
Antes.
Tá.
Eu não sou propriamente o mais jovem de vocês. Provavelmente eu sou o mais jovem em voluntad.
Sí. Chico, ¿cómo influyó sobre tu pensamiento y tu praxis?
Sim, eu não conheci, eu disse ao princípio, mal que eu conheci Paulo antes de 64, quando ele estava suas experiências. Eu estava, nesse momento, eu participava da planeação, era diretor de planeação.
Chico, você pode falar em inglês? Em mal inglês, não importa? Em inglês. Sim.
Let me speak in bad English.
Yes, please.
I knew Paulo very long ago, when he was nearly beginning to be known. I was at that time. I was directing the planning of the land reform in Brazil. In the work I was only during 8-9 months, because then came the putsch and I was put outside. At this moment, I was discussing with Paulo how to use his methods with people going to have the land in the land reform. Was trying to even speaking about a second stage of his methods after having learned how to write and read, how to use his methods to go further in the conscience and the organization. At this moment, I knew him. Then I met him again when exiled. He and myself. I was with him in Chile, and I was with him again in Europe after Pinochet's putsch. Let me see what happened here. Something happened here. I met him again in Europe when he was in Switzerland.
How did meeting Freire influence?
It disappeared here. Everything disappeared here.
¿Cómo influyó sobre tu pensamiento y sobre tu praxis? ¿Cómo?
Certo. Well, from then on, we did different. We were together also after, when he was Secretary of Education in São Paulo. I was at that moment municipal councilor, and so I had many occasions to work with him, to learn with him. And my praxis, all his idea on how to make people aware of their existence as human beings, and how to work to make people, awake people of their power. And I'm now, till now, I'm part of a group, little group, you know that in Brazil we are living in very difficult times, very, very difficult times. Because the man who was elected is not only unprepared, he's also ill. He is mentally ill. And we are now nearly having one objective in our action, all types of action. We're trying to put him away, because if he's destroying everything we did after the putsch finished, the military regime finished in the 80s. He came to destroy, and he came also to create a splitted country. So myself, I'm working with the others to re-begin the type of education work to make people aware of this, that he is mentally ill. It's incredible, but there are people still thinking that this man have to stay in the presidency, and to overcome the misunderstandings of all this, we have to begin because we left a little bit aside the work at the base of the society. You know that Brazil is a two-parts country. We have, from the slavery times, we have 3 centuries importing slaves. 3 centuries, 4 centuries, European came, and also they brought slaves. And the slavery, till the end of the 80s, of the 19th century, we had slavery. So we have a divided country. On one side, you have the poor and miserable people. And another side, we have middle classes and rich classes. And the difference between their conditions of life of these two parts is very, very important. Even grew. And during, from when we arrived to put a man oriented to the people's problems, that was Lula, from then on, I think we thought, well, we are in the power now, let us continue. But we left aside, from then on, the work with base education, political.
The grassroots, with the grassroots. With
grassroots.
Yeah.
We left aside. And now I am with many other people. I am engaged in how to redynamize this type of education at the grassroots. Very much, because people really completely, he was elected. He was elected the majority, not the majority, but the majority of voters. So he was elected by people that he would do the good things for the country.
Chico, vamos a voltar con você. Vamos a voltar en otra roda. Vamos a voltar con você. So we continue from this beginning. We understand the dramatic situation of Brazil, and then how this effort that Chico is mentioning to to recontact people to start thinking critically and get rid of that crazy, not only crazy, but dangerous man. So Alicia let me know that she will have a medical appointment. So I would like to start with Alicia saying, how did you meet Freire? Through personally or through literature? How did meeting him influence your Weltanschauung, your vision of the world, and your praxis in what you're doing right now? Clear enough?
Absolutely clear. Thank you, Asriel. No, I have not the chance to meet Paulo Freire in presence, which I really think it would be great. No, as very many Latin American young on that time in the 70s, we were very worried about in the 70s, imagine now, we were worried about the economical situation, the social situation that is coming worse, then came worse, and we were studying in the university. So we are trying to search people from our own continent and not only from Europe, that we always are looking to Europe or to the United States or to Canada, in order to give us some kind of paths or highlights in order to follow, to study and to discuss. So in that time, being in the university, I was a history student, right? So meeting with history and sociology students, anthropology students in my born city, that it is Rosario, Argentina. That's the second city of the country, we say that. In population, and with a very progressive university, the University of Rosario. So we started to study Paulo Freire, and then we met the pedagogy of the oppressed. So to me, the pedagogy of oppressed was a kind of open door. So from that moment, we started, we feed our thinking and our political thinking. So that is what I want to really highlight in this first meeting with this group, is how Paulo Freire influenced us, not only in the pedagogy field, because that is obvious in a way, but Paulo was for us also guide us in political strategies, because really we read him as a politician, a pedagogy politician, but politician, a citizenship, education politician in a way. So we started reading first in Portuguese, that we don't know, but we understand, like almost all the Spanish readers. I hope the Portuguese do the same. I know that the Brazilians read in Spanish also. And then we have copies in English. And we continue all his path. So the importance of Paulo Freire was in that period of our formation. I want to highlight this. I mean, now I am one of the representatives, the oldest, I would say, like Chico, of the first educators that work on, like Asriel as well, work in Latin America with the readings of Paulo Freire, from the principles in education, but also principles for public policy in education. And so it was also very important for us to meet him as all the work done as Secretary of Education of Sao Paulo, because that policies were paths in order to follow up. So nowadays, to make it shorter, Paulo Freire's readings are absolutely a must in all the education universities in whole Latin America, I would say, in all Latin America. Moreover, as you know, we found Paulo Freire readings in all the countries. I I used to teach in Alexandria in Egypt, and then I found Paulo Freire in Arab, which was, you know, something for me quite surprising. And then I found Paulo Freire in Korean, in South Korea, the translations, I mean, that the students did. So how his thinking is universal in the sense of searching for freedom, searching for the role of law, searching for democracy, and searching for participation. So from this point of view, the feat and the inputs that Freire had done for us is more than education. It is more than pedagogical readings. They are really lifelong readings for all of us till today. And last but not least, I want to tell you that I am part of very many searching groups here in Latin America and with Europeans as well. And one of the searchings that we are doing is working on the issue of how social movements are learning sites as well. So how do you learn in non-formal education? And that social movements have Freire as well, and the readings from Freire, all the references and the bibliography as a library. So even today, thank you, Asriel.
We will come back to you and to Chico as well. So we have Fernanda, we are going to go round. So Fernanda, and just before coming, Fernanda, you're most welcome here. You said something, Alicia, that is quite important, that people think of Freire as an educator, as a pedagogue. But he said, pedagogy does not exist. Pedagogy is critical pedagogics. It's either to conform, to domesticate, or to liberate. So that's one point that I wanted to bring. Now, Fernanda, if you could shortly introduce, how did you meet Freire, in person or through reading, and what does it mean in your life and your work now, today? Thank you.
That's a very good question. I'd really like to introduce. Are you listening to me?
Yes.
My internet is not so good here. I don't know. I'm seeing myself like stop in motion.
It's good.
It's good now. Cool. So it's a very good question. I really like to introduce myself and tell about my story, you know. And also very nice that Chico has talked a bit about the history of Brazil and this political situation that we are in, this kind of mud at the moment, but just at the moment, Chico. So I grew up in a suburb area, seeing and being surrounded by poverty and kids in the streets, on the streets. So it influenced me a lot for my work right now, but it took me a bit of time to understand what was happening in my neighborhood when I was a child. And also because my mom was the person that used to bring kids to our home. I was used to come home from school and get at my home and see kids that I never saw before. So because my mom was having a shower, or even give them a lunch, or help with homework, and that was the environment, the soil, the fertility, you know, that I came from. So I never thought about to be a teacher. When I was in college, I start to to study the environment issues and also ecological patterns. And I also was starting connecting childhood education and learnership with nature. So when I left...
Fernanda, how did you meet Freire? How was your encounter?
So that's...
You didn't meet him in person, you met him through reading? So
that's the next step. So I did an MBA in popular education and social movement, was based on Paulo Freire talks, and that was for me kind of explosion of connecting my childhood experience and ecological patterns also with a critical thing. So that was my first, my first
encounter.
Meeting, Paulo Freire meeting, on my life. And now I keep going, like studying and reading with my feet and my heart in this, in my reality, with my group Café com Paulo Freire here in Porto Alegre.
Okay, thank you. So very briefly, before moving forward, I met Freire in similar conditions to Chico. A mission from ICIRA in Chile that were doing research and education on agrarian reform came to Peru, 1969, to help us do the same. So we had the task to educate 500,000 families, peasant families, and Freire was advising the Minister of Education. Augusto Salazar Bondi was one of the most advanced educational reforms in the world at the time. So Freire was working in the Ministry of Education with alphabetization, but we were a small group having the task to deal with peasant training. And he came to us and he said, well, it's too many peasants and you have very few people. You need to use media communication in a dialogical way. And it is a long story. We started the program of peasant radio forums throughout Peru, but this is a long story. I stopped there with that beginning. So that's how we went in for Freire. Then 1972, in Bad Nauheim in Germany, we had a meeting and we created the Peace Education Commission. That's where we met Alicia. And in 1970, no, we met later, but in the International Peace Research Association was a committee on peace education. And then already inspired by Freire said, if we do peace education, it has to be transformative, and we have Freire. And it was accepted from the beginning to do peace education from a Freirean perspective. The last time in Europe, it was 1974 in Sweden. And he just received the prize, the Peace Prize from UNESCO. And it's a beautiful speech because he had the trouble dealing with that, because he said, in Europe, in the States, in Canada, in the whole world, you can speak about peace education. But in Brazil, in Latin America, we cannot speak about peace education if not at the same time doing education or fighting for justice. Justice is the precondition for peace. So, and then there are later occasions, but I think that's enough from that. You could say that since 1969 is part of my thinking, my writing, my research, my education, my teaching, teachers as well. So somebody wants to add more about this right now? I need to go as well. I think I need also to do the same because I'm in the program. Right? Yes. So yeah, so I'll go straight to how I heard about Paulo Freire. Yes. And I built a timeline so it will be easier to follow as well for everyone. So the first time I've heard, actually, I was 14 years old in Brasilia, and the neighbor school I studied in CEA, the neighbor school was called Paulo Freire, and that was just a name by them. In 2009, jumping a little bit, this was in 2010,
2001. And then in 2009, I was in the forefront of the Fora Sarney movement, a movement against the president of the Senate, that was also former president of Brazil, which led me to enroll without having family or wealthy family or family in politics. I went to PDT, the party where we had Cristóvão Buarque, which was the Minister for Education, became a friend later on, and Brizola. And through Brizola, I started learning more about Paulo Freire and the importance of education. And also coming from this family that was basically my single mom saying that you need to study to achieve something, I was in that position of becoming a young activist in a political party and understanding the importance of being critical and being also the importance of not accepting what was imposed even in this party, where I didn't have anyone to back me up. And from there, I was a candidate, the youngest candidate in that party in 2010. And I left the party because it was not defending education anymore. And Brizola was just a name, Paulo Freire was just a name, Darcy Ribeiro was just a name. I went to PSB, which had Miguel Arraes, that also employed Paulo Freire as his Secretary of Education, and Luiz Erundina, which I met, and I could talk about Paulo Freire because she was mayor of São Paulo, and he was also Secretary of Education during her term, the first woman mayor of São Paulo, and first in the left wing as well. And Luiz Erundina is an amazing live archive of history of Brazil. And I could talk to her a few times about Paulo Freire, which inspired me in 2012 to start being a volunteer teacher in CEA, my former school. So it was 10 years after leaving the school, coming back as a volunteer teacher, giving them the opportunity of having education in stuff that I didn't have, such as international relations, economics, politics, in a way that they were included in the education. So I wasn't just giving them information. I was relying on those young students to help me to create knowledge in those topics that the school and the curriculum didn't provide. And that was a long time. It will be already 10 years ago. So jumping super quick, I was developing this critical pedagogy without really knowing, without being really aware of the whole work of Paulo Freire, but just, about living the theory in practice. And then in 2016, I came to Sweden, did my master's, and here at SIMUS, you also learn to be a bit more stand your points and tell what you think about things and be more participative in the education. So in 2019, we had the opportunity to conclude, to give new ideas to the curriculum. And one thing I saw during my years in Uppsala, especially Uppsala, there is a very conservative university, that we lacked some worldviews, even though we tried through SIMUS, to put more authors, women authors, authors from African countries, Southeast Asia, Latin America. We didn't have one course about Latin America in Uppsala. And then I had the privilege, also with Daniel, to start a new course 3 years ago called Sustainability and Development in Latin America, which I've been coordinating these years. And as a way to show what Paulo Freire says about theory and practice, that they can't be separate, they need to be together. This year is the third year that we run this course, and we have only Latin American lectures coming. And the model we use to be inclusive and democratic, we give half of the time to the lecturer to talk. And the other half is a space of co-creation of knowledge, where the students are the ones to decide what will be discussed, what we asked, what they want to talk about in a circle. So even the physical hierarchy is broken in that space as well. So that's my comes and goes with Paulo Freire.
That's fantastic. Cristóvão Buarque is also a good friend, the best governor of Brasilia ever. And he was for a short time Minister of Education, but was short-lived. Lula didn't like him too much. But that happens in Latin America. So let's move next to the context. And since Alicia has to go, Alicia, since we have not much time, could you try to look at Latin America from your wide perspective, Argentina, Colombia, and try to see it in two ways. If you could identify the main problematic features that need to be changed, the challenge that we want to change. And then I will ask Chico to spell out what does it mean another world is possible? What does it mean? ¿Qué significa otro mundo posible para América Latina y para Brazil? So we start with Alicia and then we take a round. Is that okay? Is that clear for everyone? So we want to read Latin America through Alicia's eyes. We'll help you. Okay, you are not alone. Yes, if you could identify the main parameters, the main features, the structural, cultural, and so on. But since you have to go, it cannot be too deep right now. But we will continue conversing in the way that they do here in CIMOS. We construct together this kind of knowledge. So there are two sides of it: to read the context, the problem, and then if we want to transform from what to what, from better to worse or from worse to better. And then what does it mean another world is possible, which is the motto of the World Social Forum. What world do we envisage? What do we want? What is the utopia in Freirean terms? So, Alicia, please.
Well, not easy at all. Right. No. First, let's say we are, as you know very well, in a big and deep crisis, first of all, related to economy, which had been more or less the permanent crisis that we have as a result of the neoliberal economy that was developed by our republics in Latin America. I don't know if you say our republics, by the way, because very many times I think that that kind of republics are not mine, but let's say our systems. So as you may know, Latin America had from the 70s a terrible history related to dictatorships in the South and wars, direct wars in Central America and Colombia. And so this situation and the outcomes of that, it looks like ending at the end of the 80s, when the dictatorships ended in South, and the wars started to come to another phase of agreements in Central America, mainly Honduras, El Salvador, even Nicaragua, and Colombia. These situations create hope and create the understanding that the situation is going to come better. The usual thinking, I'm sure I shared it with Asriel as well and with Chico, was that nothing can be worse than what we had. With the dictatorships on one side, in the South, that is to say Brazil, Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, and Peru, or with the wars like Colombia or the Central American countries. The idea was that after this period, let's say more or less in the 90s, the things are going to come better. From the economical point of view, from the social point of view, from cultural point of view. And that was a big mistake from my point of view. Now I'm putting the glasses that you want that I have to put as real. So it's my opinion, but we discuss it in Latin America now. So we were young, we were full of hope, well, or younger at least, full of hope, and seeing that this shift from terrible violent situations may create more open, participatory, democratic situations. From the political point of view, it is true that this period changed to so-called democratic governments and republics, because
the transition to democracy. Transition
Exactly.
to democracy.
This transition to democracy that we called democratization, in Spanish, democratización, in Portuguese, democratização, was seen as a very hopeful path to better situations. In the reality, this path in the 90s was terrible. Why? Because it was a period that the neoliberalism, from the political point of view and from the economical point of view, and also from the education point of view, because the International Bank was the Latin American Ministry of Education in a way, well, decided different kind of politics that really were seen as good for the countries, or from the neoliberal point of view, but created a terrible economic gap that Chico had mentioned, and also Fernanda, in the societies, in our societies. And it is all the same. I mean, we can describe the situations in Brazil, in Argentina, in Chile, Peru, Bolivia, or Central America. We are going to find this gap that creates more and more poor people and less, but very rich people, very rich. And so,
Alicia, could you let me just come in shortly, very short, just a short little parenthesis. Brazil and Mexico, according to the data from the World Bank, are the countries in the world with the worst distribution of income, with the worst gap, socioeconomic gap. So this is just one point there. The representative of United Nations in Colombia, De Vincenzi, he said, Colombia cannot have neoliberalism and peace. They are antithetical. So I shut my mouth and please go on.
well, that is what we think nowadays, but it was not the thinking in the 90s and in the start of the 2000s. I mean, it's seen the neoliberalist formula by the governments as a solution, as growth, as development, as, I would say, good policies. So it is a gap also in the thinking of the people. So we start to have groups that are seeing this new model as a kind of enemy for equality and for democracy. And another group that it is the governments mainly, and not only the national governments, but also the local and the provincial governments, seeing this kind of policy as a way to reach solutions to the situations that have been created mainly during wars or during dictatorships. The result, the outcome is what we can see today, which is worse in a way that we thought. The case of Brazil with Bolsonaro and the case of Colombia with Duque are good examples. Also Piñera in a way. Chile was considered internationally and presented as the best student. We know very well that it is not true from the society point of view, and that is why in 2019 we have such social movements that in a way lead the other social movements that we are seeing now in Latin America, mainly in Colombia. So the good student, it is good for specific social classes, let's say, or if we don't want to use a Marxist term, let's say for specific groups in the society.
Alicia,
yeah.
Can I ask you something to try to summarize your narrative that in a way the hegemony of neoliberalism as an economic doctrine basically associated with Friedman, with the Chicago School. It has created the conditions that today are rampant, that are making the situation worse now than it was before the coups. Is that the way to, would you summarize saying that if you need to diagnose the disease, would you say it's the consequences of neoliberal economic and political doctrine, including the shock effect that Naomi Klein is speaking? Would you accept that summary? Just to move on, is that something you would accept?
Well, I think that I am clear explaining. So I thank your summary. But for explaining the ideas, I have to give more ideas than to summarize. So yes, I accept your summaries, but I think we have to explain. If you want, you go to another speaker then, and then I can continue afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia, because we need both, and then we need to move to the question that we brought to Chico, and then Fernanda as well, from your experience, how do you see this development? Most people associate Chile with the beginning of neoliberalism. In fact, it was in Brazil. The military coup in '64 in Brazil was the way to enter neoliberal politics with Simonsen as Minister of Hacienda. So it started already in Brazil with the military coup, and then it followed in Chile, and so on and so forth. So, Chico, when you respond to the conditions of Latin America that Alicia has presented with an idea that it is possible to change, that it is necessary, urgent to change, and then you formulated another world is possible. So, how is this possible world, and how to get there?
Well, I said to you that it's very, perhaps I can speak, but I cannot understand what you say. So perhaps I'm going to say things that you said already. Anyhow, taking the first question you put about the World Social Forum. In fact, what is another world is possible? When we say this, naturally, is to say that this world, unjust, unequal, destroying the nature, destroying the conditions of life for our human species. This type of world, we must change it. And another world to be possible, to build another world, but it's not to build from now, today, and tomorrow we have another world. It's a process. And in this process, the most important is the way we try to change. That in this sense, the objective is not only a problem of neoliberalism, of domination, countries' domination. It's a problem of logics and a problem of a culture. What we must overcome is the logics and the culture of capitalism. This logics is the most important force inside it, is in competition. We must overcome competition and begin to work in cooperation, every human being. This change is very, very difficult because it's very inside us, the idea of a competition. Everything is competition. In the life, in the individual life, and in the social life. And we must change this, and these ideas, Paulo Freire helped us very much to understand the way to arrive there when he put the idea of horizontal relations. That's to say, in education. He put it in education, but we can live in all aspects of life. The horizontal relation where everybody can learn and everybody can teach. That's to say, everybody at this level of learning and teaching, we are similar, we are equal. We have some types of knowledge, others have another types of knowledge, and our knowledge together do something different, but we need to overcome competition. We need to live in cooperation. That's the main idea. So the World Social Forum came to say we must overcome the unjust world that's leaving us to the humanity to the disaster. We must overcome this, but we overcome this changing our way of seeing things, way of living, and way of politically acting. That's the main proposal of the World Social Forum. We must learn a new political culture, not the culture of having power, but the culture of dividing power, of horizontally understanding the power that are everybody together cooperating. That's I think that's the main idea of World Social Forum, to arrive to the new world that is possible. We cannot build something with the methods that are old methods. The old world implies old methods to work, to live, to build. We need new methods to act, to do political. So the pyramidal structures of every political action must be overcome to give place to horizontal relations, where everybody is respected in his knowledge, in what he knows, and everybody can contribute to this. This idea is to begin to say that when the justice idea comes with the idea of equality of everybody possibilities, equality of everybody rights, and the equality, like the first article of the Universal Declaration, everybody born equal. Everybody is equal. So in this idea, we can think about a new world that is oriented by another logics and inside another culture, a culture of cooperation, not of competition, a culture of being and not having. This type of things, that's and where the God in this world is money. We must put the God in this world, new world, is love, not money. That's a big cultural change that we must work for. And then in this sense, the ideas of Paulo Freire at the popular education, it came very right directly to this. We must think about non-directivity. We must think about horizontal structures. That is democratic structures. That is to say, not only the will of the majority, but the will of respected will of everybody. That's the way placed to minorities that see better, that see perhaps more with more hope, and place for them also. That's not only participatory democracy. Participatory democracy is still inside a pyramidal structure of power. That's to say, those from above give the possibility of those from down to participate. We have to participation in the decisions. That's to say, we cannot leave the decisions to those that are above, but give the possibility of decision to those who are in the base.
Chico, no, I think Chico,
way of thinking the world.
Chico, muito bem, muito legal. You have rounded up the links between the problems that Alicia brought in to an image of where we want a different world, and then to change the culture. But culture is education. Culture doesn't come from heavens, it's education. So we are linking. We'd like to ask Fernanda and Andre to comment also on the problem part and then the solution part, and Alicia as well. So Fernanda, please, if you could, not repeating what Alicia or Chico said, in your own language, in your own view, including poetry, how would you shortly, like a haiku, say, how do you see the problematic, the urgency of the problem in, let's say, Brazil, because you're in Brazil now, and then how to go about it, how to transform the situation, and the same questions to Andre. Please, Fernanda, the floor is yours. I'm sorry to have this power and have so little time, but we decided that if we're interested, we can stay after 5. Those that need to go to the doctor or not, then we can stay here some time. So, Fernanda.
Well, I could use my own words, but also I could respond your question with this presenting the slideshows from Café com Paulo Freire, because I think it's a practical way of how we are dealing with the situation in Brazil and how we are trying to keep Paulo Freire thoughts alive. Is it possible, Zero?
How much time will it take about? Give an idea, just to have an idea.
I can go. I can run.
No. It's how much time have you thought about presenting this video? Just to have an idea.
There is 80 slideshows that I sent to you.
80.
8.
8. No, 8. I think sounds reasonable.
80 is good.
Yeah. So then.
No.
Something
100 to 100.
Okay, Fernanda.
As Paulo Freire.
No. I understand now. Something about the cafes.
No, I can shortly introduce. Can I?
Yes, please.
You can share your screen now.
And while we were waiting for the slideshows, I see I'm listening Alicia and thinking about neoliberalism and the process of democratic in here in Latin America, and I think it's related with Freire and how people that are like trying to destroy Freire or is against Freire here in Brazil are thinking, because these people don't know about Freire, and probably they never had the opportunity to read Freire or be in a circle culture discussing Freire. And what they think is how the education in Brazil are in the moment. And of course, it's not good, but the education in Brazil is based on what Freire tells. It's a banking education. And the neoliberalism has to be with it, it's related with it, and not this process of democratic things that we can also think in a better world, as Chico told us. And I'm very happy that Chico is speaking about the Social World Forum, because it started here in my hometown and was a very nice thing that happened for us here. Thank you, Chico. So it is ready?
Yes.
Okay, can you? I'm going to start it. I think it will be very nice, you guys, to know what you are doing here in Brazil with.
Sorry, Fernanda. We thought you were going to share your screen. Did you send the
Oh, I can also. I have sent it, but I can also
share the screen.
share it. Just a minute.
See if internet connection is good. Otherwise, we...
Something about the cafés con Paulo Freire. They are reading all the works of Paulo Freire and conversing in a very informal, like a coffee conversation. Mm-hmm. And it is started in Porto Alegre, but now it's grown all over. Something we could do like this in Uppsala.
Mm-hmm. We just started a movie club on Latin American movies here yesterday, and it's quite the same. It's just watching a movie from Latin America or about Latin America, and then having an informal conversation. Learning with each other.
Cineforum.
Yeah.
Great.
Just while we wait for to to do that.
Sorry, guys. I'm just opening the file.
And if the sharing or if the internet connection is too slow, you can just send it over the chat, and then it downloads in its own pace, and then I can share it from my computer here as well.
I don't think she understood, Danielle.
You can send it in the chat if you want, and then Daniel can.
I sent it
in the chat.
So I don't know what's happening here, but it's taken a bit of time to.
You had already sent it.
Where did you send it, Fernanda?
I have sent it to Zero WhatsApp and also email him.
Through email.
But which mail?
Yeah.
To my
email. Okay.
To my mail.
But maybe should I go and do my talk before Fernanda then?
Yeah. Okay.
So we can try to.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
So if you go.
Yes. Then I can.
Perfect.
Is that okay, Fernanda? For
you can send the PowerPoint to me.
Yeah.
Then I have.
Yeah, perfect, Andrea. Go on.
Computer that I'm running back and forth to. So.
Now we got it. We got it. Okay. I just want to. I will try to answer Azriel's question, but I need to say that I will give a different perspective. I guess Fernanda and I think we're from the same generation. I grew up under the Labour Party administration, basically. That was my teenager years when Lula was elected. It was my first voting time when I was 16, and he was elected in 2002. So that was my context, growing up under what was considered to be left. And also, I think, made me be more leftist to see that some things that I think they were important were not really being done. And I as I said before, I think it's important to stress, I was in formal politics for 10 years in so-called left parties, in the PDT from Brizola and PSB from Miguel Arraes, Socialist Brazilian Party in English, before I came here. And I was from an activist to a politician, even being part of the board of the parties, to an academic, where I am now. And the problem is that it's so hard to fight against the institutions we have in Brazil, especially now. If it was hard before, when it was a certain democratic way of living in Brazil, now with Bolsonaro, there is this mix of it's not a full democracy, it's not a full dictatorship. It's something that we don't know what's happening, and we're struggling for all of those years. and we have all the national symbols being stolen. We have all the narratives being corrupted. So we don't have like these new generations being as active as Fernanda and mine was, or Chico and Alicia and Asriel was. So it is really hard to do something. There's something I could do because I was raised into this context, and Mangabeira Unge said that there was like a new middle class raising under Lula's administration. This middle class that I can put myself from low middle class, working every day, full time, going to college evening, trying to get a better future for myself. And then being part of the system, trying to change the system and failing. It's a bit more like Darcy Ribeiro said, that he failed to save the indigenous, failed to save the Amazon, but he didn't want to be next or side by side with the winners, right? So that's the context that brought me to CIMUS, where I think now it's a way to help a lot in the context of what's happening in Brazil in this position that we are right now, in this conversation. And one announcement I would like to give, it's an idea that very Freirean, because that's what we do in class, in the classes I coordinate. We break the hierarchy, we break the concept of teaching, because we talk about educating, but I think there is a very big difference about education and teaching. So we have this constant teaching in class, and we try to educate, and try to educate naming, putting naming in the people we use. So I always talk about Paulo Freire. But as he said, just talking, just activism, or just like just practicing, it's just activism, and just talking is just like it's empathy. So we have to have a praxis, and a praxis is that one thing that we can do in Uppsala right now. It's an idea I had before, and it was fully supported by Daniel. So it's praxis, acting. That since Paulo Freire has 48, I think, honorary doctorate degrees all over the world, including Stockholm University, why not, and including also in memoriam, so post-mortem, why not Uppsala University providing a honorary doctorate degree for Paulo Freire to show how important is his work nowadays, right now, so acting now. And this is something that I talked to Daniel, that I think we should do. And it's something that I'm now opening and kind of like using the force of this company that we have with you to also bring this idea to the people that can make it happen and show that we are standing our points in democracy, into Paulo Freire's theories, in his memory, to do something in Uppsala, so far from Brasilia, but that will most likely affect Brasilia as well, and show the importance of Paulo Freire. So this is something that the problems, but also the action and the solutions. Wherever you are right now, because I know I have many friends in different countries also watching us. Wherever you are now, I think it's important to stand your position, stand your point as a Brazilian, as an academic, activist, politician, whatever you are, and say that we are not Bolsonaro, we are not this government. This is a historic mistake that will be soon corrected, I believe, and we can act now.
Thank you, Andre. So we will have this possibility of honoris causa post-mortem till Paulo Freire, and this praxis also to put pressure on the Swedish and the European governments. So we have been pressing the parliament, the politicians, not to sign the agreement with Mercosur, because that will be burning more of the Amazon. So there are different kinds of praxis. This is more academic praxis, and you could combine both academic praxis with pressure on the political system in Sweden and in Europe. So Daniel is working with your, and I think that's it.
Now it's working.
Yes. Thank you, Andre. And now with Fernanda.
Thank you, Danielle. Beautiful. So guys, I'm here to present my my group. national network Café com Paulo Freire. It's kind of having a coffee with Paulo Freire. I don't know where you are now in each country, but I think most in Latin America, when you ask someone to have a cafezinho, cafecito, little café, it's because you are open most of the time, your home, your family, to get to know this person and dialogue with her or his. So our group called Café com Paulo Freire, it's a national network. But if you don't drink coffee, you can have also a mate with Paulo Freire, as I'm having right now. Or a tea, or water, or a juice, anything. Just an excuse to be together. So you can go on, Daniel, please. So we have a bit of our history. Since December of 2019, we are a national network, but before, and so this is the history on a cold winter night in 2018, we created unpretentiously the first café with Paulo Freire in the historic center of Porto Alegre, Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil, bringing together women activists in order to talk about Brazil and their existence, survivals, in dialogue with Paulo Freire. Therefore, the creation of a project, this project, movement, collective, or network was not in our mind at that moment, not even having, a movement in Porto Alegre. But since August in 2018, our coffee has flown and does not stop. And it's what we're going to see in the next slide, please, Daniel. So now we are by today, because every day a new Café com Paulo Freire, it's starting, blowing up. The seeds are growing around Brazil. And by today, we are 33 coffee with Paulo Freire, Café com Paulo Freire, dialogue groups around Brazil. We are in 10 states right at the moment, and DF, which is the capital of Brazil, Brasilia. 2/3 opened during the COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, those have been meeting just online. So that is the map of Brazil, and where we are talking about Paulo Freire thoughts, keeping Paulo Freire thoughts alive, and co-creating, especially co-creating Paulo Freire ideas with our surrounding needs and our context. So you can change it, please, Daniel. So I'm kind of hurrying up. It's kind of hard to me hurry up because I'm not a poet. So, but I'm trying to do it. Okay, guys. Main goal is to affirm our collective Café com Paulo Freire as a space of mobilization, study, reflection, and the recreation of Paulo Freire's thoughts, respecting the singularities of each local café nucleus with its feet and heart in reality, focused on the construction of inéditos viáveis. This is a concept of Paulo Freire, and it's very hard to translate what inédito viável means, but Zero gave me a clue that could be translated as the viability of what does not exist, or the viability of utopia. So you can change, please, Daniel. So our political pedagogic training in network what we like the 3 points that highlight in our political pedagogic training would be reading Paulo Freire's book, generating words. As you know, many of you, Paulo Freire was a guy, teacher that liked to play with words and also making up new words. And I think that's a beautiful thing, as I think Paulo Freire is a poet as well, a poet of words, because words have such an impact thing in our lives, and especially in child education. So we are using this generating words to talk and to be co-creating our language also, and the concept of education together. So, and the dialogue with Freirianas and Freirianos, Freirianas and Freirianos are the people that are connecting and see an extension of Paulo Freire thoughts, or as we think we are. So we are always talking about Paulo Freire, but also talking about our lives and our issues and what's going on, not it's burning inside of our teacher's heart. So you can go on, please, Daniel. And it's nice to say that
Fernanda, can I ask if it makes sense to you? Chico mentioned that in a way, this group trying to get rid of Bolsonaro is trying to reconnect with the grassroots. Would you say that these kind of coffees are one way to rebuild this social cement that has been destroyed with the crisis, with the pandemic and the Bolsonaro pandemic and the fake news pandemic and so on and so forth? Would you say that that's one way to help recreate the social society, the civil society? Well,
may I say something?
Yes, of course, of course.
Yeah, because exactly what you say here now, what presented Fernanda, I understood more or less, but I saw what she put in the here in the what we saw here written. We created also in our process, is very new one, a website, a platform that wants to facilitate links between this type of initiatives. That are many initiatives in Brazil, like the one she presented here.
Yeah.
Each initiative is following its way, but they will be much more strong if they link and learn with each other in the Paulo Freire's perspective, horizontal. I could say to you, you could eventually see in your computers, the name of this platform is O Candeeiro. O Candeeiro. You can find it in ocandeeiro.org. ocandeeiro.org. I cannot write here to put here for you. I would like at least to have contact with Fernanda, to send her and to receive from her information about this initiative, and then we put platform information about all those initiatives, and every initiative would link with each other as they find. For instance, we have many ideas, many things that's are happening. We identified already, like film clubs, like groups, many types of groups, human rights groups all over the country The SEBI is a groups of biblical interpretation, not in the prosperity, but in liberation theology. All those types of groups are being linked through this platform. So if you can find this ocandeiro.org.
Sí. Obrigado.
You can find it in the internet.
Excelente. Es como.
But I'd like to, if you ask them, if you can facilitate my contact with Fernanda,
Absolutely,
I will thank you very much.
No, of course, this is what we are doing. That's what we are doing, building bridges. So
exactly.
Yes.
So we have a platform. You can put also our platform in your possibilities of linking.
You can send it through the chat. Chico, could you?
Exactly. It's a type of.
Write it in the chat so everyone can get it. Write it in the chat.
It's already written.
It's already written. Okay.
All right. I put it.
So we go. Thank you, Chico. Very good. We are converging. We want to go back to Alicia. Just one thing before Fernanda goes. Bolsonaro's education plan implies to experts Paulo Freire's influence from the school system. From the beginning, Bolsonaro said, I will burn Freire's books. And he's trying to clean Freire from the schools. So this is very important. Okay, Fernanda, please go. Fernanda, please.
Exactly, Zero. And Chico, thank you. Are you listening to me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, my internet is very bad now, but I'm listening. I couldn't listen, Chico. And thanks, Chico. We are here building network for bem viver. I believe it. So Bolsonaro said in his program that he want to extinguish Paulo Freire of the earth, maybe. And what we are doing, and that is why this Café com Paulo Freire started by Diana Borges.
Fernanda, there's a problem with the sound right now. It's echoing.
Yeah. I'm struggling with the sound too. Just a minute. I'm going to change a place here at home, but I'm just want to. Let's see
Now
if
it's okay. Now it's okay. Now it's okay.
Now it's okay. Okay, I'm going to stay more close to this internet reception.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Bolsonaro, we were like very desesperated about Bolsonaro saying it, and he was in power, saying that he wants to eliminate Paulo Freire from from schools and from everywhere. So we were kind of desesperated, and Liana Borges and Ana Felícia Trindade asked me to invite me to start this group with them, and it is something that we are like building these Freire thoughts and recreating with Freire, you know, because I think Freire is most about it. You know, it's not something. It's about not having complexity in education and not thinking like this banking way of thinking, as Paulo Freire tells us. It's we can't avoid complexity in education, you know, and it's about also see the environment and the ecological patterns and how we as human and kids have so much complexity and the beauty to build and transform this education and this world. So Paulo Freire, this Café com Paulo Freire has been acting, you know, practicing this thing of keeping this critical thinking alive. Because when Bolsonaro says that he wanna exterminate Paulo Freire, he is not saying just Paulo Freire as a person, but as exterminating as a critical thinking.
Fernanda, I think Bolsonaro doesn't want people to think, period. Critical think, no. He just wants, he doesn't want people to think. But please, go on. So
it's very dangerous, yeah.
So go on with the...
So here we can see, here we can see this is a very nice project that we are running now. We have a partnership with published books called Paz y Terra, and they are sending us these boxes with 18 books of Paulo Freire, and these boxes going to walk, Paulo Freire walking with our cafes, each cafes, and staying for a while in each cafe for us read, of course, but discuss Paulo Freire books and ideas. And then these boxes go to another group of cafes. So we called this project as Walking with Paulo Freire. So Paulo Freire is walking around Brazil, and to keep our critical thinking alive. You can go on.
Yes.
I think that is just one more. Oh, I think this is nice to say, because maybe some people here that is watching us can have, you know, I want to. Exactly. I think a coffee with Paulo Freire in Uppsala would be beautiful. So how we organize ourselves, it can be running at any place. It's so beautiful, that thing, because we have groups, Café com Paulo Freire, in universities, in parks, you know, in homes, in institutes, anywhere you can run Café com Paulo Freire. Every group has to meet up at least once a month, and nowadays we have this online meeting, but I think in some days we can have again a meeting, a present meeting. So each group can decide if it is open or closed. You know, if you are open to other participated, or just a group that it's closed, or having any external assistant or not. We can help also, you know, if you have any doubts to how to run Café com Paulo Freire, or about the Paulo Freire thoughts, we can connect it. We are connected with each Café com Paulo Freire. So you can go on, please. I think that is the last one. So this is the last one. Therefore, Café com Paulo Freire National Network assumes Freire's pedagogy, popular education, and systematization of experience as a mechanism of fight for social justice, as a theoretical support, and above all, as a tool for transformation. So if you need if you have any questions, or, you know, want to open a Café com Paulo Freire in your city, so contact us. Our email address is there. I can also put it in the chat. So
Great.
Thank you.
So yeah, we will ask your help, because we just decided to start one here. So now hello, veo Stella. Hola, Stella. Hola, veo Stella detrás de Chico. Oi, tudo bem? Placer de te ver. Y también ¿cómo se dice? Mi nuera, mi noriña en Río, Elisa, también estuvo escuchando el programa. Adoré. Entonces, vamos ahora, por favor, vamos con Alicia, si puedes redondear la problemática y el cómo salir cómo superar la problemática. Entonces, Alicia, tú empezaste con la pronunciación, ahora trata de redondear los retos que tú ves y el cómo. Hemos escuchado diferentes formas de abordar el tema. Entonces, en base a tu experiencia y a tu reflexión.
Yeah, you are speaking in Spanish now,
Oh.
so yeah, it seems to me you're mixing. Yeah.
Okay, so in English, we have gone around and we are sort of co-creating knowledge in a digital, physical hybrid. So we have listened some about the problems and how to go about the problems. So I would like you to deepen that horizon. We understand clearly, even in generational terms, what the problematic is, because the structure of the problem was not resolved under Lula. It still exists. The gap still exists. Some changes were made. Big mistakes were made. So out of these mistakes, Bolsonaro comes. It's not because we succeeded so well that Bolsonaro would not even be in our imagination. He came in because we did something wrong, not enough. So, Alicia, if you could try to round up the problematic and how to deal with it, please. And we have somebody else on the right. Who is that?
I think it's just because he joined and the camera is open. So whoever is with camera open will be there.
Okay.
But just someone else listening.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Alicia, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Well, I have a lot of things to talk with Fernanda, offering a kind of connection with what we are doing here. So, but then I would talk with Fernanda on that specifically. Yes. So you need now this. Well, it is true what even Paulo Freire said, that it is easier to make a diagnosis than to make a solution to the diagnosis. So I would propose some things that I am not sure they are the most important, but at least what are working the first in this moment in very many countries, as I work, you know, in many countries here in the continent. So first, I think that really it is a time of ending this issue related to neoliberal democracies as the best way of government. It is proved that the democracy, at least in the way that it is developed in Latin America, it is not efficient. At least it is not efficient for the population. Of course, it is efficient for some groups, but we are not talking about that. And it is not the idea of Freire. So what we think it is that we have to rethink about what kind of democracy we want to support, what kind of political parties we want to support in order to develop new programs, because it is a kind of permanent lie from the political parties in very many countries, like Brazil, Chile, Argentina, Peru, Bolivia, whatever, that they are going to try to end this state of situation. So we need a rethinking about political parties, how they can deal, and our support related to them. We have to rethink about what format, what kind of democracy we want to develop. And I, of course, support the idea of participatory and deliberative democracy, where the people works every day for that, and not only voting each 4 or 5 years, which is not enough at all. We also have to educate on democratic items. So that is why Freire is more alive than ever, because we need him and his ideas more alive than ever. Education is freedom. Education is freedom of spirit and of political decisions, and it is freedom for life. So we have to do that. So political programs in order to open minds, pedagogy programs in order to develop more critical thinking. And in that way, the Café con Paulo Freire are kind of non-formal education from my pedagogy point of view, that is evident. And so don't rest the transformative issue only in the formal education, because the formal education is a education arm of the politics. So I don't trust very much in the so-called transformative educations inside school, while in the general paradigm, the democracy doesn't work. So how is going to work a formal education in that paradigm if it is, how can I say, a supportive platform from the politics? So it is a kind of, you know, a dialectic. We have to try to find non-formal methods and entering by these non-formal inside schools. And we have to create groups in universities, but not only in university centers. We have to create these centers everywhere, in cultural centers, in neighborhood community sites, where the neighbors said what they want, what they need. So what my so-called solution, that of course, I mean, it is not, but an approach, is to call for more participation from citizenship. I mean, we need more citizenship in the street, but not struggling with the police, which is the main issue, or breaking windows. No, not at all. We need people conscientized, that is process of conscientization in English, it is conscientización, that is a word coming from Freire, in order to react, first to be aware of what is happening. There is something that written here that said, people don't know about neoliberalism. And then I wrote, yes, they don't know the theory, but they suffer the theory. So the people that suffer knows, because they don't know the name of the theory, perhaps, but they know what that kind of politics made in our continent. And so that is the reflection. So more places to reflect together, more places to be together, hopefully in person. Yes, absolutely. And this Zoom thing, okay. And more education in citizenship and participation. That is what we need. Also, education for politics. When I say education, it's not only for youth and for children, it's for all, lifelong learning. And the politics need, I think, a lot on this, a lot. That's
I'll
it.
make a very quick follow-up to what she's saying.
So, Andre, and then I will take the word.
It's a super quick
Yes,
follow-up that I totally agree with you, Alicia. That's amazing.
Gracias,
that you say
Alicia.
that. Amazing that you say that, because this is basically what we try to do at CIMUS. And we had former students at CIMUS going abroad to other universities and trying to make these groups as well, or institutionalize these groups within the university. As we said, the Uppsala University is very conservative, but we have CIMUS here for 30 years. And we had a student that went to Bergen, for example, University of Bergen, and he started also a similar approach to students co-creating knowledge there. And it's a process, but it's something that is happening in many ways, in many places. Thank you for your...
So, Alicia, thank you very much. And something that you said before triggered something in my mind. You mentioned social movements also as spaces of transformative learning. And the Paulo Freire Institute in Porto, in Portugal, published a book, Una otra educação é possível, another education is possible. And then my chapter dealt with different spaces to intervene in terms of education. And Freire said all the spaces, a parking place, the toilet. He said one space that is not limited, is not quantifiable, is imagination. So cash on imagination, on creativity. So every space, big or small, can be perceived as a space of intervention, of change. That's one point. And every time, every episode, for example, we didn't think about having a coffee with Paulo Freire in Uppsala, but we just agreed that it's a great idea. So we'll start one here. Why not? So I want to bring another topic to our panelists and our participants. And I'm going to give a context, a background. A new type of coup took place in Latin America, in Honduras, and then in Paraguay, and then in Brazil. It's not a typical military coup. They had corrupt Congress people, parliaments, corrupt in the judiciary. They had Opus Dei, and they had military. And of course, the eternal presence of the United States. So this was a coup in Honduras. And there were some mistakes done in Paraguay and then Brazil. To understand that Trump was elected in the United States, he was looked as a joke, like Bolsonaro as a joke. But his strategies, Steve Bannon, he has formulated what he's doing. And Steve Bannon has read Gramsci, he's read Sorel, so he is, you could say, a very educated enemy. And we should learn from the enemy. And he says, we are doing cultural war. And the cultural war, having evangelicals saying that Jesus wants Trump or Bolsonaro to be president and so on, it's people that are not thinking. They are listening in the same way like people listen to Mussolini, to Hitler, like sheep. They are not thinking, they are following. So in terms of cultural war, I think one problem we have is that we preach too much to the converted. We preach to ourselves. We need to find ways to go beyond people that think like we do. How do we reach these people that have stopped thinking? How do we, because we don't need to convince ourselves. We know what is wrong. We know that education is basic, and the recreation of solidarity to destroy the culture of competition. So my question to our panelists, our distinguished panelists, sorry for my English, Chico, I can translate for you if you want. So in this cultural war, en esta guerra cultural anunciada, formulada, Steve Bannon está haciendo en Europa, he's doing in Europe what he did in the States. The granddaughter of Le Pen started an institute in northern Spain, in Galicia, and she spoke about cultural warfare. So we need to say, okay, we are doing cultural warfare, so how we're going to fight this cultural warfare? So my question to our panelists is, mi pregunta a Chico, a Fernanda, Alicia, Andre, is how are we going to enter this cultural war that we are lagging behind? The extreme right in Sweden, in Europe, in Brazil, in the States is being highly used by the far right, not by the far left, not by the left, not by the progressives. So if we're going to start fighting this cultural struggle, and we understand what we are talking about now, we need to explore ways to, this is propaganda and counter-propaganda. That's not what Freirean education is about. But we need to stop the enemy, and then we can dialogue one-to-one, not with these bandidos, with motorcycles in Rio or in Sao Paulo. They are paramilitary fascists, and we need to stop them. And we need to be prepared to stop them. You take the gun, and then we converse. Dialogue follows after we stop this, but we need to do both. This is the challenge. So, our panelists, I shut my mouth. Foi claro para você? Chico, você entendeu? Você entendeu? Entendeu?
Yes, a little bit, not completely, okay. But perhaps what
so
you
let me
are
take 2
looking
minutes
for.
To translate for him.
Yeah, we should wrap up fairly soon.
Yes, we should, deberíamos, que en este momento, la guerra que tenemos, no solo con Bolsonaro, con la extrema derecha en Suecia, con Vox en España, con los trumpistas y los republicanos en Estados Unidos, con Hungría, con Urban, con Polonia, es una guerra cultural, es una guerra de propaganda y de contrapropaganda. Obrigado, ¿usted entendió? Entonces, mi pregunta es, ¿cómo hacer las dos cosas? Parar la propaganda con contrapropaganda. No es freireano. Y una vez que se neutraliza al enemigo, se hace posible un diálogo uno a uno, pessoa a pessoa, con vecinos, donde moramos. Este es el reto que estamos viendo. Cómo responder a propaganda con contrapropaganda y al mismo tiempo aumentar el cemento, el diálogo, la participación de base con las bases, ¿no? Que PT perdió, ¿no? Había comunidades cristianas de base que PT tomó como cuadro y después dejó. Ahora hay que retomar todo ese trabajo de base.
May I say in English, Azrael, my bad English, I think that we opened already not 15 years ago, 5 years after the beginning of the World Social Forum, we began to have 2 years after the beginning, the idea of local social forums.
We had one here for 10 years. Yes, we had in Uppsala.
Yes. These local social forums are spaces.
Yeah.
That's the idea. They're spaces to live the intercommunication that Paulo Freire proposes at an horizontal situation. That's a new political culture. You are going to see tomorrow in Brazil, the 22nd, it's being prepared a big manifestation, a big demonstration against Bolsonaro. But coming from above, coming from the direction of unions, direction of parties, not all, direction of movements. But people will be there. That's the question. We are not doing like Bolsonaro did or does. That's to pay buses, to bring people. We are not going to do this. But people will come. Let us see tomorrow what will happen. But anyhow, the way to overcome this, to not overcome, but to face these people is using our now new systems like the one we're using now, systems of intercommunication through internet, but to build little spaces of discussion, of dialogue, searching, and action. Actions, many types of actions, sorts of actions. That's the way we can face this cultural war. They are using what they are using: the internet and the fake news, and the facts that people are looking in their houses, the internet, but they are not meeting. Anyhow, now with the pandemic is more difficult, but we are overcoming a pandemic. So we must begin again to build new local social forums. Do not think about the world social forum. Do not think about the national social forums, but about multiplication of local social forums. If we could, Azril, in the discussions of the International World Social Forum International Council, bring this idea, not to discuss and to fight about who is going to say, represent. No representation. We must multiply at the local level, groups, discussing different groups, not all the same, all the little bolhas, how we say, but really open spaces at the local level to make people come together, discuss and interchange and do things together. In my sense, the only way to this cultural war, because inside this meetings we can exercise a new culture, a culture of cooperation and not of competition. Then we build a new political culture. That's
excellent.
my dream.
Yes,
that's my dream.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
we had 10 years in Uppsala. It's a lot, and we had contact. We linked all the movements, all the organizations, but then it takes a lot of effort and energy. And some of the people that were involved are getting old, like me. So, but CIMUS gave us a platform. So during the time that CIMUS was involved, that's when we had the strongest input and different. We had everything, against racism. We were the only ones able to join all the left, because the left is divided here, like in Brazil. Communists here, Stalin is there, Trotsky is there, anarchy is there. But we were able to have them in the Uppsala Social Forum, and they came, they organized their own things. But, it is possible.
The left is divided.
Yes.
It is living under the culture of competition. That's the question.
Yes.
Under the culture of having power.
Yes.
We need to enter in another type of culture. Not competition, but cooperation. Then we will build something different.
We will maybe start with the coffee Paulo Freire, and then we will see if we can build to have a larger space of a local social forum again. Many people want it, but few people want to burn themselves, okay? So
maybe a coffee forum would be a thing then, to do it very smaller forums. But we should really wrap up. But I don't know if there's a
So Chico had, I think Alicia had to go to the doctor.
Yes.
If Fernanda wants to say, and Andre, if you want to say, and Franz has been with us all the time, and he's very clever, but he hasn't. He was not a panelist, but you're entitled to say what you want to say. So, Fernanda, Andre.
I can very quickly go on this question. It's a huge question. And of course, we would need maybe many events just to answer that. But I just want to give one more piece of the puzzle, maybe, that we need to think about. there is cutting the financial heads that put these people there. And I think a big mistake in Brazil and in many countries is that we pacified with the elites. We try to be, when the left wing went to power, we try to make it okay with the elites, with the ones that have been taking from the people, from the country for centuries, and being together with them. And that was a huge mistake. They are the ones that did this new type of coup that you said, with a new liberal agenda. So fighting the new liberal agenda, fighting the financial heads, so eat the rich. And I think that there is not a big need of a counter propaganda, because I think the propaganda that we're having now with the pandemic is very clear of what's going on under this new liberal regime, and when the people really needs a state, they state. So
we disagree on that, but
yeah,
that's fine. But then we continue discussing,
because I think that now that the pandemic is killing so many people and that everybody needs a state, it's a time to show that if we have a change, and I will focus in Brazil, if we have a change of power in Brazil in the next couple of years, it's the time to cut the financial heads and to radicalize the how to say that, the socialization of the wealth, and to focus on sustainable development policies, because we should have done this under PT's term, and we didn't.
Yeah. Okay, but then on the propaganda thing, we can converse further.
Yeah, because we have no time for that now.
Yes, the far right in Sweden, Swedish Democrats and National Democrats, they are growing in numbers and in the agenda. So we need to stop them.
But I just need to add one point on this. It's also the social democrats here. If you see I'm not an expert in the history, but when you live in a place, you see the inconsistencies, right? And all the privatizations, all the processes under the social democrats in Sweden, all of these years, shows that they also didn't went to the left, and they try to kind of like embrace the new liberal ways. And this is not possible to have a left wing in power embracing new liberal ideas and theories.
Social democracy since 82, with Kjell-Olof Feldt ran a neoliberal policy. 82.
Exactly.
Started then. So, Fernanda, few more words we're trying to round up, and then Chico?
Yes?
You want to say something?
No. I was only writing.
Fernanda has the voice. The voice.
Okay, guys.
The voice of the poet.
Okay, I'd like to answer this with as a teacher, a practical way of how to change things. I agree totally with Chico that we needed small social forums, and these small social forums has to start in schools and in the classrooms, in the families, because this is a democratic way of deal with our education, and we are so sick of it. Actually, I truly believe that the most social problem that we have come from our childhood and the violence that we have in childhood in our journey of learning. So our nature is being co-creator of our reality, our education. And when someone take it, it's kind of take a piece of our body, away, and we are always looking for this piece. That's what I have seen kids, and working with adults, doing training. So I would say that I truly believe in teachers and how we are in the base of pyramid. And we are influencing so many kids, so many people, also adults. And we don't have this, we don't have this valorization, in society. So I would say that we have to put all of energy to do and then to give to these teachers the best trainees. You know, I was also would like to say that I was watching the video, the one that Samus did in the day
19,
of 19. And I remember, as you were saying, that what can we do to bring Paulo Freire thoughts to our university, to academy, and you know. Maybe we have to embody some things as a education that is not just in our minds, but in our body as well, you know. And maybe, and that's something that I have to do, I have been doing in my training with teachers. It's easy. You just ask them how was the memories that they have as a childhood learning. What was something that they felt was kind of a violent act that they suffered. So it has a huge actually a huge potency to see in our nature of learning, you know, and start to think about how kids learn. And it's very, very related with Paulo Freire, because Paulo Freire has this soil. So I'm just I would like to say, Chico, I believe in a society with more cooperations. And I think partnership, it's a good word also to describe what our nature of learning, you know.
Gracias, Fernando. Thank you so much. So it's with teachers, with education, with children, and this is something that we have in common. This year, we had a Zoom with 700 teacher students in Mexico, in the whole of Mexico, and then 250 in northern Mexico. It's very violent there. So that's one area that is very important. In the case of Peru, my home country, it is the teachers' union and teachers that have elected for the first time a progressive president. And it's very clear to see the gap between those who have and those that have not. Those that have had everything from the colony through the republic, neo-colonial republic, they don't want to change. In Chile, the social movement, basically young people, they managed to get the proposal for a new constitution that is not a neoliberal constitution. And this was done by young people organized as a social movement. They managed to galvanize society, and Chile is having today a new constitution, not perfect, but better than the neoliberal constitution that was enforced by Pinochet. So maybe one note about Brazil. You know, Simonsen was first, finance minister, but then he became Minister of Education. He realized the importance of education, and he created Mobral, trying to use Freire's words to do the opposite, and he failed. You cannot fake with Paulo Freire, because Paulo Freire is about us, It's about being genuine. So Simonsen failed to try to do fake Freire as a Minister of Education. And it tells us that we have some power in Brazil, even in Sweden and in Latin America. Thank you very much, Chico. Stella, it's very nice to look at you. It's a long time. I really miss. I would like to see you again in person. Fernanda, we will meet in Porto Alegre. With Alicia, you know what we did? The World Social Forum was in Porto Alegre. And we said, it's too much Porto Alegre. We went with Alicia to Alvorada, outside of Porto Alegre. See? And we will try to do our best in Uppsala, in Simos, and also, with this Fridays for the Future and Friends of the Earth. We have different organizations doing this kind of networking, this kind of tissue, new tissue. So another world is possible. We need another Uppsala possible, another possible Uppsala University. You take care of yourselves. I really love you. I have high respect for you. And I'm stronger thanks to you. Thanks for today. Muito obrigado, muitas gracias.
Thank you all.